Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Purpose Investments announced this morning, Friday, February 12th, that it has been cleared by Canadian securities regulators to launch Purpose Bitcoin ETF, the first direct custody Bitcoin ETF in the world. Joining me this afternoon to discuss is Som Seif, founder and CEO of Purpose Investments. Som, congratulations on the news and welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks, Jill, and great to be here.
What is this ETF designed to do, and how will the daily NAV price?
So, look, this is the first, call it physical, it's hard to say physical in a digital currency, but physical backed Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded fund in the world. So, for the first time, we're going to see a vehicle that actually tracks the price of Bitcoin in the real time, intraday, with full liquidity at all times with no premiums and discounts. The price will be tracking, of course, the intraday price of Bitcoin. We'll be holding every dollar that's in the fund will actually be backed by $1 of real Bitcoin held at our custodians' accounts in a cold wallet. And, this is a really exciting moment, I think, for, not only the ETF industry, but I think for the entire institutional and retail investment universe to be able to access this asset class in a secure and efficient way.
Som, what were some of the challenges bringing a Bitcoin ETF to market, and what brought the Ontario Securities Commission around for approval?
Well, look, there's a lot. It's funny because the capital markets will look at Bitcoin and look at the ups and downs of the last sort of 3-4 years. And a lot of filings were made back in 2017 when Bitcoin was, sort of in the $19,000, $20,000 highs and caused a lot of excitement. But the underlying infrastructure that was available back then to support a product like this just wasn't there. The institutional custodians weren't as well set up, the market makers, the futures market, all these things weren't there to support a liquid solution like this. To get something in the market today, we had to do a lot of work. Just a simple example, you think about this idea of how a digital currency settles instantaneously. It doesn't have a T+1 or T+3 settlement structure like you would in normal securities. To be able to then marry that with a structure that does settle on T+1, T+3, that was a very important principle. Those simple things were critical. Getting our market makers to be able to efficiently and effectively hedge the underlying and hedge the asset. These aren't simple problems. And so we were able to work through this over the last sort of call it half a year or more, both with the regulators and with our market makers and our infrastructure supporters to get this in the markets. And frankly, we had to spend a lot of time getting the regulators to be comfortable that this infrastructure was in place.
It's a great point that you bring up that the actual instruments to hedge weren't even available when these filings first started in 2017. That's a great point that you made. So it sounds like this type of product is suitable for retail investors and for advisors.
Well, I think take the concept of, whether people should buy Bitcoin itself. I think the structure itself is an extremely important, secure structure to how to buy Bitcoin. So yes, for a retail and an institutional investor, now they have the first way to actually use a traditional investment vehicle like an ETF structure that's settled in DTCC, CDS, all the rest of it, and be able to buy that and get access to this digital asset. Whereas before, historically, if you think about it, you had to buy either these closed-end funds that were trading at sometimes big premiums, or you had to go and actually open up your own crypto wallets or hold it directly, and those were challenging. So this is an efficient way to do it in a normal account that you would normally be able to buy any other security.
Now, we have a big U.S. audience, of course, with Trade Talks. Will they be able to access this kind of ETF, or do we have to wait here until there's a regulatory approval for a U.S. ETF?
So, this is a traded security. It's listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Most investors can access the Toronto Stock Exchange for any security, just like they could in Europe or Asia or the international investors in the United States. I think the key question is whether or not their brokerage firm or their advisors ultimately would be able to purchase it. But ultimately, this is a security that's available to anybody to buy. And we anticipate that, this is structured for Canadian investors, but ultimately will be a traded security.
All right, Som, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.